Hi everyone, I'm JD from Willow Bound Journals, and I am doing day 2 of the list journal course in my Daphne's Diary journal. Now, I'm not going through this chronologically. I am just going to be ticking them off randomly as to what inspires me. So let's tick off the first one that we've done together, introduction. Today, for prompt 2, I'm going to do movies, and I forgot to write the date, so that is something that I do want to do. And so over here I'm just going to write Saturday and 5th of 8th 23, and I might want to write the date here, 5th of the 8th, and then this one, 5th of the 8th. So I often do my journaling in bulk. Whenever I take other people's courses, whenever I run my own courses, I tend to do my pages in one go. Not all of them in one go, but when I sit down to journal, I like to knock out a few at a time. And I don't tend to do it daily. I will go every few days, or sometimes only on the weekends when I have a lot of free time. So this is how I finished off the introduction page, with some bits of sparkly pieces, sequins, and now this page looks more finished and looks more like me. I love it. Love it. Okay, so let's move on to prompt 2, which I'm going to look at my top 5 favorite movies. Or you don't even have to do that, because it doesn't say favorite, and even if it did say favorite, you can adapt it. I might just talk about top 5 significant movies in my life, or something along those lines. And I'm not necessarily going to work in order from front to back in my journal either. This is kind of showing how I use a junk journal or an art journal. This is me showing you how I'm using a Daphne's Diary journal in particular. We have a prompt on songs, so I might save this page for my song prompt page. But now I want to look for a page for movies, and I don't know if I'll actually find anything that's relevant, but I will have a look and just see what I can find. And I might use something like this where I can cover this page up. I'll look through my printables here. This is the printable kit that goes with this course for those who want it. So my beautiful patrons get access to the full 15-page printable document that is ready to print, and there's also 3 pages of freebies as well, all available over on my Patreon. Okay, so I probably want something to cover this page, and I've just got some scrap ledgers next to me that I might want to use just to cover the page. And I think that is what I'm going to do. Just thinking out loud to myself. Just because it's got that kind of cream color to it. And I am going to just rip it roughly to size, and then I'll trim it. Okay, so I'll keep that scrap because I might use it for something else. Alright, I want to just glue that down onto the page. I think I'll use my glue stick for this one, so it's a bit less messy. This is Elmer's glue. I get it because I just like that it's purple. they changed the design of the Bostik glue stick and I'm not a fan of it, so I switched over to Elmer's. Plus I think it was slightly cheaper, like 10 cents cheaper, so that always helps. Whoops. Okay, so let's line that up a bit better than that. All right. Now, I think I want to trim that edge. You don't have to, but I'm going to. And that just gives me a base page to work with on top of a Daphne's Diary page. That particular side didn't, you know, need to be preserved. So this side I love, this side we could cover up. Now I've got my base and I've got these little stickers to do cinema. And I thought I could do something with that. Now I just want to look through my pages off to the side here. Oh, and I do want to cut out my little days. Oh, did I not have movies on here? Oh no, there it is. Okay. So I cut it a bit narrower than the black is, but you can cut it however you like. You can even leave the border around it if you want. But this just, you know, instead of writing this out, I like that I can just stick it on. And it gives it that consistency across the journal. And since it's a course, like I like that idea that it has its own little labels. So that's the free printable. These two here, part of the free printable that you can use if you want to join me in doing the same thing. And let me think. I'm just wondering if maybe I don't actually have enough to do 2 pages, because I could just do that and put my list here. And that could be the page that I've done today. Yes, I might do that. And then I could write a story about one of my favorite movies, or I could even print out like the movie poster of one of my favorite movies. And let's just do a bit of brainstorming. So the printable doesn't have all these streaky lines, that's just my printer. So my movies are Lord of the Rings, Labyrinth, The Never-Ending Story. We could go with Alice in Wonderland. One more, Sleeping Beauty. All right, so what I'm doing here, this is a list of not necessarily my favorite movies, but movies in that fantasy genre that I loved as a kid. I mean, I still do, but there's just something about that fantasy genre where I can totally get lost in the world. And that's what I love about movies, is when you put the movie on, this world disappears and you're in that world. And I find that fantasy movies transport me the easiest, the best. And what I love about fantasy movies as well, and just the genre in general, like books as well, I just really am blown away by the creativity and the imagination of the creators of that world, whether it's a book or a movie, and that they create this world that is either painted through words or painted through film, and that it then allows me to enter into that world. I just think that's amazing, and like just so much genius. I'm in awe. So I am just going to write about, well, or write that list of those 5 sort of fantasy genre movies that really captured my imagination as a kid, and that gives me that appreciation for creativity and for using the imagination. That I love this. Okay, so here's a story. When I was studying creative writing at Bible college, I always had this, I came to it having this sort of tension, between the writer in me and the human or the Christian in me, where I thought they were at odds, where I thought creative jobs weren't real jobs, where being a writer wasn't really a noble thing to be or anything, that it was just a personal thing that didn't have any relevance for others to make a difference in the world. And so I went into the course a bit at odds, like what am I even doing, wanting to write, wanting to be a writer. And straight away, one of my classes talked about, is it G.K. Chesterton? And how Chesterton said something about the imagination. I can't remember what he said, but what it gave me was this insight that God gave us the imagination, and whatever he gives us to be a good steward of. He gives us, whatever he gives it so that we can use it, not so that we neglect it, hide it. He gives it to us so that we can enjoy it, so that we can know him through it, because whatever he passes on to us, we're made in his image, so we have an imagination, he has an imagination. The whole world was created out of his imagination. And here I am like, oh, the imagination isn't important. We have to be logical. We always have to use reason. Forget the imagination. Forget creativity. We just need to be practical people of logic and reason. And here, though, is our creative God who uses his imagination. And yeah, it just gave me this insight that I can not only use my imagination, but I am called, we are all called to use our imagination and everything that we've been given. We're called to use our reason. We're called to use our imagination both together equally. And so I was just dismissing imagination, sort of like, oh, that's not important. Logic is more important than imagination, but they are equally important. And I just love what G.K. Chesterton taught me about, like, using the imagination is a way that we can engage with God. It's a way we can communicate with him. It's a way we can get to know him. And it's also a way we can share him with others. We can do that through many different ways, but the imagination is one of those tools that we can use. And I love that so much. From then on, I was like, yeah, all right, bring on writing, bring on creativity, bring on the imagination, because now I can use it. I know I can use it in a way that helps me know God better, helps me glorify him, helps me share him with others. And that gives it so much meaning, so much significance, so much purpose, beyond already that there's already inherent value and purpose in just getting joy from it. God gives us things to give us joy as well. And I always knew that I enjoyed it. I just didn't know that it could have an impact on others. Well, I did know that too, but I knew it. I just didn't really have the right wiring in my brain to completely understand it. Anyway, so that's why these fantasy movies that I grew up watching were so important to me, because they helped me enter into this world where, I could go into other worlds that were so enchanting and dazzling and wonderful. All right, so I'm going to write my list of top 5 fantasy movies that I grew up watching as a kid that I just absolutely loved. Well, Lord of the Rings wasn't. That came out when I was a teenager. But that is my absolute favorite movie, so that one is going at the top of the list. And I just write Lord of the Rings because I'm talking about the entire trilogy. I love the entire trilogy. And then the first fantasy movie that I ever really saw and fell in love with was Labyrinth. And then from there, The Neverending Story. I remember when I first borrowed it from the video shop, and I was going to write shop then. And yeah, I just absolutely loved it. It became one of my favorite movies. And my willow tree, I renamed it the Ivory Tower, the willow tree that I played in as a kid. Alice in Wonderland didn't seem so significant to me when I was a kid, but as an adult, and when I look back, I realize how big a role it played in my life, how I would watch it over and over and over again, and how that really captured my imagination. And there was this real life version of Sleeping Beauty that had songs and beautiful gowns and crowns, and I just loved it. I wanted to wear those dresses and wear those crowns. And there was a whole series of that. There was Snow White, Beauty and the Beast, The Frog Prince, Rapunzel. I loved them all, but Sleeping Beauty was my absolute favourite. So those are the movies. Again, it's just a list. There's part of me that feels like I need to do more. I need to write more about this. But we don't need to always write lots in our journals, just a list. And again, I can do something more over here if I do want to add more writing. If I want to print out, maybe I will print out the posters of each of these movies and just put them here. And maybe I'll write a little spiel about how much these movies meant to me as a kid and why I'm recording them here in my journal. But I don't need to do that because the list speaks for itself. So I really hope that this is a simple, quick, easy, no pressure, fun journal course for you guys, where you can see that you can fill up a journal with something as simple as a little list, and it just captures something about you. Thinking I want to add a label here just to write the date. And again, it looks a bit weird, but I don't care. Actually, I think I want to use the one that's on cream paper. Again, it has all these streaks in it. That's just my printer. Okay. I just like the darker colour there. And I don't mind. See, even though it has streaks, I don't mind at all. I will include it in my journal anyway. And the date is the same as this date. What was it? Saturday. Fifth of the 8th. Cool. So yeah, if I get the motivation, I will print off the covers, put them over here, and maybe just write about how they influence me. Maybe not, we'll see. Or I could just leave it and do something else on that page entirely. I hope you enjoyed that video. Hope you have fun with all these prompts. If you did the movie prompt, let me know in the comments what your top 5 favourite movies are, or what 5 movies you wrote about or made a list of. If you did a different prompt, let me know that too. I'll be interested in hearing about that. And another way you could go is write a list of the last 5 movies that you watched. If I will try to think what were the last 5 that I watched, or even what were the last 5 best movies that you watched recently, or the 5 movies you're currently loving most. So maybe I could do that here as well. The previous 5 movies I watched were the Barbie movie, I think think we watched Don't Worry, Darling, The Glass Onion, Knives Out, The Glass Onion, and The Lost City, and The Sapphires, and Everything Everywhere All at Once. So I could write about, the latest movies that I enjoyed watching, or just the last 5 movies that I watched, or maybe a list of 5 movies that I want to watch. There's a whole bunch of movies that I actually want to watch. So actually, I could fill a whole page with movies I want to watch. So maybe that would motivate me to actually sit down and watch them. So many ideas. You can take these prompts anywhere. That's what I love about this. So I really hope you have fun with this prompt, or whatever prompts you choose for day 2. Let me know if you're following along with the same prompts as me, if you're just going off in your own direction. If you want to take a photo of your pages, feel free to tag me on Instagram or share them in the Facebook group page for Willowbound Journals. Just be sure to write which prompt you're doing so that we can see what you're responding to and be inspired by your pages. And maybe we'll choose one of your prompts for our pages too. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys. Thank you to my beautiful patrons who supported me in July. I literally cannot do this without you, so it means the absolute world to me. If you would like to support me for the month of August, feel free to head on over to my Patreon. The link is down below in the description box, and that is where you get access to extra videos, the Make a Journal With Me series, and the sneak peeks to my journals and creations and first access for all of those, plus printables, every digital kit in my Etsy, and mail tiers, and lots of fun goodies over there. You are also welcome to donate through PayPal or buy me a coffee as a once-off thing anytime. Thank you so much for all of your support and for being here with me on this creative journey.